This is Vols JP with the Talkin VAWLS Network, Talkin VAWLS podcast. Had to do a quick video and talk about this schedule for 2020. SEC released yesterday evening the additional 2 teams for each SEC school. And of course, Tennessee draws 2 additional teams that are in the preseason top 13. Imagine that, right? Imagine that. So Tennessee draws Auburn away and Texas A&M at home. So when we look at Tennessee's schedule now, we got home games, Texas A&M, Florida, Missouri, Alabama, and Kentucky. Away games, we got Auburn, South Carolina, Arkansas, Georgia, and Vandy. 5 teams in the preseason top 13 that our Vols will play. Imagine that. All this coming out of old Birmingham, Alabama, and the SEC office down there. Typical. But you know what? I'm not going to complain. Because if we get football this year, it's going to be just a bonus, in my opinion, with everything that's going on with COVID. So if we get football, I'm not going to complain. But I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why that this is not right. And I understand that all these teams, somebody has to play somebody, and you can't play yourself, obviously. But when you look at this schedule and you look at, if you take the preseason rankings and you redo this schedule now versus previously, I would like to know why that the top 4 preseason SEC teams, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Florida, why those 4 teams, based on strength of schedule, have 4 of the 5 easiest schedules in the SEC this year. That's not coincidental. That's not coincidental. It is blatant and obvious, again, that the SEC is up to their shenanigans, that they are trying everything that they can possibly do to make sure that they get 2 teams in the college football playoff. That's what this is all about. This is not about Tennessee getting screwed over. It's not about Arkansas getting screwed over. It's not about any of this other stuff. It is blatant and it's obvious that the SEC is trying their best to make this schedule to give an advantage to those 4 teams. That's all it boils down to. That's all that this boils down to. And I guess, maybe that Tennessee can blame themselves because of the decisions that they've made over the last 12 years coaching or whatever, and all the other things that's went on with that program, that they're in the situation that they're not one of those top teams at this moment in time. But that is the frustrating part of it. That's the frustrating part of it to me, because it's blatantly obvious. Of course, they will deny. Of course that they will. And they've got their puppets on TV that'll deny it. There's nobody that's going to come out that has anything to do with the Southeastern Conference that is going to admit to this. But it's blatantly obvious that they stacked this schedule. Look at Arkansas. Arkansas and Missouri just got totally annihilated having to play all these teams. Well, imagine why. Because those 2 teams are 2 of the teams that are probably going to struggle the most outside of Vandy, and they get stuck playing all the top teams. It's stacked. That's just the way it is. But enough of that soapbox there. We see it every single Saturday in the SEC as far as the officiating goes, that there's favoritism played depending on who the favored team is and where their ranking is and the possibility of them making the playoffs. So fully expected it, and it happened. So enough with that. Schedule-wise for the Big Orange, I mean, if you go down there and you look at that schedule, I mean, at least we got a couple, I mean, 3 of our biggest games, Texas A&M, Florida, and Bama, are at home. And then, of course, we're going to have travel to Auburn and then travel to Georgia. But with the limited capacity or no capacity, anything like that, I mean, I think that obviously that away games are, you're not going to have that home field advantage. So you could probably just throw all of that out of the window this year. But still, you got the traveling involved in it and so forth, like that. Just being more familiar with your surroundings and everything like that. But that's no excuse. I mean, this is major college football. These kids play all over the country, so that's not really an excuse there. I mean, if you look at it as far as if it was a normal season and fans were going to be in the stands, I mean, you talk about an exciting home season for Tennessee fans to go with Texas A&M, Florida, and Bama. But really hate that. Believe I'm not mistaken, this will be the first time Texas A&M ever plays in Knoxville, and looks like it'll either be a very limited capacity or no capacity at all. But we'll just see what happens with that. But I mean, the 2 teams that Georgia got, they got. Let me get back up here. Arkansas. Had all this down. Of course, I knew that I would forget it. I'm scrolling back up here right quick. But I thought Kentucky got hosed as well. I mean, they got hosed. They added Mississippi State and Arkansas. So, but if you look at Georgia's schedule, if you really look at it, I mean, they already played Florida, they already play Bama, and they already play Auburn. So really, if you look at that, we've got Texas A&M, and they got Arkansas. So if you really look at that, but I just don't. I definitely think that the SEC East, in looking at this schedule, certainly favors Georgia and Florida this year. I don't think there's any denying that at all. And certainly the LSU out of the West, they got the easiest schedule out of anybody out of the West for sure with that. But the big part of it with me that is frustrating with it is the fact, I mean, if this season actually ends up being played, you've got a 10-game season there. You don't have any built-in wins. I mean, there's no built-in wins whatsoever. I think most people were probably, most Tennessee fans were thinking, if we could finish 8-4 with the regular schedule. Well, now when you look at this schedule, I think that you have to say that 6-4 is a successful year. I mean, that's beating one of the top, one of the 5 teams that are preseason ranked in the top 13. Let's just put it that way. If you beat one of those teams. So looking at Tennessee's schedule, you've got Texas A&M, you got Florida, and you got Bama at home. So in my opinion, one of those 3 is your best opportunity, because then you've got to travel to Georgia and you've got to travel to Auburn. So one of those 3, Texas A&M, Florida, Alabama, in my opinion, is where Tennessee needs to win one of those games. And of course, then they've got to take care of business with the rest of their schedule. This whole season is just going to be a wild card, because we just don't know week to week, day to day, what's going to happen with this coronavirus. And if players test positive, are they going to have to sit out? Is, multiple players going to have to sit out? Are games canceled? So, it's just really hard to really sit down and even, break it down even, because we just don't know what's going to actually happen there. But, it's certainly interesting to talk about. A lot of back and forth on social media. Obviously, of course, people complaining and so forth like that, and everything, but that's the way it's going to be. I mean, you're going to have teams, fan bases, coaches that are excited about it, and some that aren't so excited about it. I liked what Pruitt did. I saw where he tweeted out from his Twitter account, said, "Let's go." I mean, that's one thing that Pruitt, I mean, obviously we all know as Tennessee fans that he's tried to change the culture down there, the losing mentality. How many times did we see the prior coaching staffs, when Tennessee would get down 10 or 14 points, it was Katie marked the door. We've seen that Tennessee fights back now. We see that that's not Jeremy Pruitt's makeup. So Jeremy Pruitt is not going to make any excuse. The fans can make excuses. I can sit on here and cry about it, whatever. But Jeremy Pruitt is not going to make any excuses. He's going to roll up his sleeves. He's going to tell those fellas, these are the cards that were dealt, and we're not feeling sorry for ourselves. Nobody else is feeling sorry for ourselves. So we're going to have to roll up our sleeves, and we're going to have to work extra hard. And I mean, I'll be honest. I mean, I would much rather see a Tennessee Auburn game or a Tennessee Texas A&M game versus a Tennessee Charlotte game or a Tennessee Furman game. But I understand in a regular 12-game season, you need those games built in to, rest some of your kids, rest your players, build depth, all of those type of things. So I understand why that those games are in there. But if, and this is a big if in my opinion, if college football can play the entire season, I think that this could be one of the most exciting and unpredictable seasons that we've ever witnessed, just because we don't know what's going to happen. I mean, I feel like that there very easily could be somebody that just comes out of just the middle of the pack this year and just hits on all cylinders. And, if players are having to sit out due to COVID and so forth like that, I could see it just jumbling everything up. But if we get to play, but we'll see how all of that happens. But I'm interested also in seeing what actually happens once they actually put out the schedule with the dates. I think that's your next thing. I guarantee you that those four teams, Georgia, Florida, Alabama, LSU, that their schedule will be divided up, and they won't have any difficult back-to-back games. Probably their most toughest game will come right after their bye. All of those things, watch for that, because that's what's going to happen next. Of course, the SEC, won't say anything about it. Media won't do anything about it because, they're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. So, but watch, I guarantee you that that's coming next. Tennessee will have one of those murderous rows where they play probably, who knows, but, Tennessee will end up playing those five teams back to back to back to back to back. Watch that happen. So, obviously, well, I don't think that's going. I wouldn't think that's happening, but you talk about somebody mad, then there's going to be a lot of people mad if that was to happen. But I'm interested to see Pruitt's comments on it. Like I said, I fully expect him to, say that the SEC is toughest schedule in the country anyway. That we're not going to sit around and moan about it and complain about it. We're going to go out there and we're going to worry about ourselves and go out there and compete in every single one of those football games. I'm also interested to see what Phil Fulmer says about it. Obviously they said the ADs had to sign off on all this and everything. Obviously, I don't believe Fulmer has to be happy about it. The athletic director at Arkansas is not happy about it. Missouri. be interested to see what kind of comments that former says about this. But that's probably going to do it. I guess the only thing that I can say about this is, I think what Tennessee needs to do, I think what Jeremy Pruitt needs to do, I think what this Tennessee fan base needs to do is they just need to take the old famous line from the Major League movie that Jake said when they were talking about, how the owner was trying to manipulate it to where they wouldn't win any games. And old Jake just stood up and said he only knew that there was one thing to do, and that was to just go out and win the whole beep thing. Until next time, Vols JP, Talkin VAWLS Network. Hope everybody has a great day, and go Vols.